The At Your Insta podcast is brought to you by Comic Town. Check them out at www.comictown.net or search for Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook. Hello, and welcome to At Your Insta. This is the extended intro, courtesy of Mike and Dave. You're welcome. Well, I am here, obviously, with Mike and Dave, and we have another fun-filled episode. Now, you guys already had your intros. Don't give me that look.
Hi, Dave.
Hey, what's up?
Dang it, they still stuck in the intros. Well, we have another fun-filled episode for you folks this week.
Wait, is that Morgan?
I think so.
Yes,
Okay.
This is me. Did I not introduce myself?
You said it's me. Grammatically,
It's
that's
a me.
horrific.
It's a me, Mario.
It's a me, pizza boy.
That's probably terribly insensitive to some people.
It's the Totino's thing. It's me, Totino's pizza boy.
Yeah, fair enough. It's a
It's great.
hot Tim and Eric joint.
Yeah, it's on the internet.
So, not to get on a tangent, but I have to say that the one where he tries to spook people.
Oh yeah, spaghetti.
Spaghetti, yeah, that gets me every time.
Spaghetti is the greatest. Like, if there's anything in sketch comedy that I've ever enjoyed, it's spaghetti.
Yep, spooked you.
Gotcha, spooked you.
Spooked you. All right, well, we have another fun-filled episode for you folks this week. Not necessarily too much to really talk about as far as competitive-wise, and a touch of community subjects. So we're actually going to focus around some questions of the week. Yes, questions of the week, and we'll talk more about that segment when we get to it. But let's get started with the community segment to start off. So first and foremost, Tin Atten or Aiton.
Aiton.
Oh, sorry, this is a bad habit.
Yeah, vowels are tricky. He's the editor for Wizard of the Coast R&D, and he's actually on Jeopardy, and he's actually cleaning up on Jeopardy. He has been on a 7-day winning streak, which is insane to say the least. So it's kind of been nice. We've kind of seen the Magic community rally around Tim and really wanting to see his continued success on Jeopardy. But I want to let the people know that the better that he does, the less likely he is to return to his job. That's probably not true. I'm sure he enjoys what he does very, very much, and who knows what he intends to do with his winnings. But that's great to see. I would have no hope on Jeopardy, so he is a very, very smart man, to say the least. Or at least that's, what Jeopardy's taught me to think of people, is that if they're on Jeopardy, they're pretty smart. So maybe I'm just tricked.
Yeah.
But anyway, shout out to that. That's an amazing streak.
Yeah, I wasn't able to see tonight's. I watched him, one of the ones last week. I think it was like his third time on. I don't usually watch Jeopardy, so I tuned in specifically to see how he did, and he won obviously, but I don't know if he's continuing on after tonight's episode. So hopefully,
Yeah, hopefully. Is there still a cap? I know for a little while after the whole Ken Jenner or Ken Jennings, one of the two.
Jennings, I think.
Jennings, the whole Ken Jennings thing, that they instituted a cap for how many days you could go, but I don't know if they've removed that.
he was too good.
He
Broke the format.
He was too good, actually. Yeah, so they brought him back to fight the computer brain when they brought Watson on, and he lost to Watson, unfortunately.
Wow.
So,
But
that was day one of the robot uprising.
he's the one who sort of made the I for one welcome our robot overlords thing sort of come back into the spotlight. So but I hope he keeps going, and eventually we see him, because at this point he'll get to come back for like a Tournament of Champions thing.
Yeah.
So that'll be sweet.
Yeah, that'll be
pretty
awesome.
cool.
So yeah, congrats. Again, Tim, if you listen to our show, you probably don't, but it's okay. We don't mind. Next up, I feel like we did this like last time.
it was like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so it was fairly recently when we talked about F&M promos. We did get another update. I don't know why it had to be 2 weeks delayed, but whatever, I guess. But we have our update for March, and our March F&M promo is going to be Incendiary Flow. This is
Hey, we called one.
Yeah, an actual playable card.
this is
Our crying willed it into existence.
a minor update, I would say, because like I mean, Incendiary Flow is not like a card that's lighting up the charts right now or anything like that, but it is a spell you can cast in Standard and not get laughed at, so that's nice.
I feel like they rushed this announcement out. They're like, oh crap, people really hated Fortune's Favor. All right, yeah, let's get this one out a couple weeks early just to restore some faith.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Look what I found in my bag of goodies for you. It's Incendiary Flow. No, shut up.
Now, to be fair, I don't think I particularly like this art. It is somewhat indecipherable in my opinion.
Yeah, it looks like a weird bug got lava'd. I think.
Yeah.
Lava bug?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not good, but someone's standing in the forefront, assumedly Chandra. That's
Yeah,
bad.
the flavor text is sweet though.
Yeah, I mean that's the same flavor text though.
I know, but it's still sweet.
It's very good flavor text.
It's
I will give you that. It's very emblematic of Chandra's character.
What do you think?
Oh, I don't even know what it is.
It's like Gideon's like, "What are you going to do?" And Chandra's like, "What do you think?"
It's like, "What's your plan?" He goes, "Oh yeah, are you kidding me?" or something like
Yeah,
that.
are you kidding me? That's what it is. Yeah, it's something along the lines of essentially it's like, "I'm going to burn it." she's like the Wreck-It Ralph but with fire.
Fire, yeah.
Gonna wreck it.
Also, something an arsonist would say, "I'm going to burn it."
Yeah, so there are times where she reminds me of like watching the '90s X-Men cartoon and the awful version of Pyro. They had
Oh,
on
the
that.
Australian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna burn things. It's like, are you? Is that your power? That's your mutant power, huh? I couldn't have guessed from you, literal orange and red jumpsuit with your gas cannons on the back. My apologies.
Yeah. No, yeah. Pyro was kind of a mess in the 90s.
He was a mess in like the X-Men films too, like the angsty kid in X2 where it's like, I'm gonna burn these cops and now I'm going with Magneto because I'm a bad guy. You're like, yeah, we know Bobby's a good guy.
Yeah, we understand. Point made.
Nice.
Fire nice.
We thought they could be friends, but Robert Frost told us so long ago.
No, should have just listened. Did not. Unfortunately, he tried to be so, caution. He tried to give us caution in his prose.
I just feel like I always want to see like Pyro and Iceman like singing like Foreigner covers to each other. It's like one singing Cold as Ice, the other one singing Hot Blooded, but like in a really like powered like duet towards each other.
Man, that'd be great.
Internet, please make it happen.
Yeah,
fact,
like
it might actually happen.
it doesn't already exist. Let's be right. But yeah, so if that's
right, magic cards.
Yeah, if that's something that you're into. Again, I feel like we just need to get out of Eldritch Moon. I don't know. Is this our second or third one? I guess I can't remember. News Constrictor.
So News Constrictor, Fortune's Favor.
Yeah, the third one.
This
All right, no more. We're done with you, Eldritch Moon. We're moving on.
Okay, so if we're moving on to Kaladesh, what do you think the next one would be? If you had to pick like any uncommon from Kaladesh.
I'm pretty sad because I almost guarantee we won't get Harness Lightning now, which is an obvious pick. Oh, maybe an Aether Hub. That'd be really sweet.
Aether would be cool. I mean, Voltaic Brawler. That could be a good one.
That'd be a good one. Yeah. Skywheeler Shot, I think, could be a sweet one.
Yeah,
Some sweet art.
it's kind of a little bit of
Fringe playable,
a little
but-
bit of a role player. Yeah, I think Aether Hub though is
Veteran
definitely
Motorist?
Ceremonious
Veteran
Rejection.
Ceremonious Rejection
That'd be
could be
sweet, 'cause
sweet.
that-
Only
That's
if we
like-
get that Karn art we talked about before.
But yeah, they have plenty of options in all honesty as to what to pick from Kaladesh. But I think Aether Hub is probably like the slam dunk.
So what you're saying is that we're going to get like Era of Invention or something.
Yeah, just something stupid, just something like whack.
It sees zero play.
Yeah, just the worst. Literally, like, look up any random uncommon from Kaladesh and be like, that one. That's the one you get.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, probably like the ball lightning vehicle. That'll be it.
Yeah.
Oval Chase Dragster or whatever.
No.
That'll be it. That'll be the
Why?
one.
Bomat Bazaar Barge. That'll be it.
Yeah, just some hot garbage. Just be prepared for in the next 2 weeks when they announce it. Apparently, so
They could just like troll everybody and do Bomat Bazaar Barge, but give us the Treasure Cruise art on it.
that would be a sight. Well, I mean, that's pretty much it for community. Let's go ahead and move into competitive, and it'll be a short trip in competitive. When we really take a look at it. So we had GP Milwaukee, which was limited. Well, we do see that it was actually taken down by a first-time GP top 8er in Steve Carter. And the top 8 people, actually featured 4 members from Team East West Bowl, which is, again, a fantastic team name. We have Ari Lax, Corey Burkhart, Ben Whites, and Eric Severson. Or Severson?
Yeah, Severson.
Severson.
Oddly enough, too, I looked at the bracket, the way that it broke down. Like, Steve Carter beat all the non-East West Bowl guys and on the way. So like, he didn't have to play any of the East West Bowl guys in the top 8, which is kind of funny.
Interesting. And, this was kind of our last GP until GP Louisville, which is going to be in January 6th through the 8th, and it's going to be Legacy. So that's kind of it. Who 9-0 day one? What's his name? He was going for like 4 GP wins.
Matt Severa.
Yeah, Matt Severa. I was really hoping that he would like pull it out. And,
Yeah,
That would have been sweet.
It was like a local GP for him too, because he's from that area. So
oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's too bad that he couldn't kind of take that one down and get 4 GP wins in a year. Is that what it would have?
yeah, that would have been sweet.
Man, that would have been something.
4 GP wins in a calendar year. Yeah.
Man, looking at this, I know we don't normally talk deck list for this, but man, this is Stephen Carter. That's Stephen Carter's deck list.
Sweet.
I'm like, he definitely has like a bunch of removal, but he definitely has like a Verder's Gear Hulk.
Oh.
And just like a bunch of like the fight cards to go with it, and like a bunch. I don't know. He just seems like he has a really good green energy deck. Like overall, Hunter just moved away from it. Hunter.
Oh, you know what would actually be a really cool promo?
What?
Cloud Blazer.
Oh my gosh! Please, please! I didn't know I needed it till right now. Please.
I feel like that's totally one that they would make too.
Oh, please.
Put that as the
Please.
front runner.
Please. All I want for Christmas now is a cloud. I didn't even know it. Why did you do this to me?
I'm very sorry, but
really
yeah,
disappointed.
yeah, that would be a great one.
But he had like Long Tusk Cub. He had like Thriving Rhino, Verder's Gear Hulk. He had 2 of the Fairgrounds Trumpeter, the one that you get to draw a card for each creature. You have a +1/+1 counter on it, so you could just go Gear Hulk, counter on all my guys, draw 4 cards.
Disgusting.
And he had Renegade Freighter too, so like his deck was just very solid.
We don't know if that actually happened though, because this wasn't streamed.
Oh no, 0 coverage. I'm just imagining it because that's the coolest play.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just imagine the coolest play. Oh, you know what? We forgot to mention. We're talking about limited, but Holiday Cube is back up and running.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yes.
Wow. Man. Now, okay, so Overwatch Holiday stuff is here, and I got to do that.
Yep.
I'm playing Final Fantasy 15, and I got to do that.
Yeah.
But I got to draft the Holiday Cube.
Yeah, it's great. I've been catching out some streams. It's perfect. I've been waiting for LSP to show up and stream, because his streams are just the best. Like ever. Compared like the Butch Bar, if he could just do that, if that was his permanent position, that's all he could do, it'd be awesome.
And this is the time of year where John Finkel comes out and streams sometimes. And so if you ever want to watch somebody try to draft Storm and fail, go watch John Finkel stream.
I just want you to know that also sounded like another Foreigner song. You've been waiting for a streamer like him.
Yeah, pretty much. But he hasn't started yet, so he said closer to the weekend. So keep your eyes
Be on
peeled.
your LSV advent calendar.
Yeah, correct. But yeah, that's an important note. They actually opened it up a little bit early, so it's been open since. Oh, and there was a funny bug yesterday when they first had it up and running, where there were duplicates in the packs.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so that was fun. That has since been fixed now, so you can go in and draft and not have to worry about the nut red deck that has multiple fire blasts. Don't worry about it.
I saw a screenshot of somebody had like double Mind Twist. Like the first 2 picks were Mind Twist. It's like, oh, cool.
Wow, yeah, that's a great draft. That's a great cube
just
draft.
Some mana ramp and good to go.
Just wreck your opponent for life. Now, obviously, you are playing in queue, so you will see other people that have the same cards as you potentially.
It's just
but
gonna be a race to see who Mind Twist the other first.
yeah, but it's not going to be like people with multiple cards anymore. So they fixed it. So good job, Wizards, for fixing a cube draft and making sure there's no multiples.
Yeah, and if you haven't drafted the Power Cube yet, if you see Time Vault, just take it.
I don't even think Time Vault's in there anymore.
Oh, really? It was too good.
Yeah.
It's
pretty good.
It's like, it just works with so many different things. Like you just get, Tezzeret or like, Voltaic Key, obviously.
Rouse Eric.
Ralzeric, yeah. Anything like that. It's like so easy to assemble.
But you still have some pieces of power. You still have Lotus. You still have all the Moxen. You still have Time Twister.
Ancestral and Time Walk.
Ancestral Time Walk.
Ancestral's pretty good.
Yeah. Most of the cards, you still have Library of Alexandria, which is really good.
Yeah, so out of all the cards to draft, That is the card that I am always like playing either Holiday Cube or like Combo Cube locally. Like that's the card that I like. People be like, "Oh, look, Lotus. You know, you can have your Lotus." Library is how Magic was meant to be played.
Yeah,
I
library
need you to know.
is king. It literally like people take it in red decks and aggressive red decks.
Oh,
you know,
God,
just
yes,
everything.
Because you're drawing
yeah.
an extra card every turn, and sometimes it taps for mana. That's very
Something.
nice.
If
too.
you happen to draw it late game, you're like, I guess I'll
worst
just
case
add
scenario,
mana.
it's a waste.
Yeah, card literally makes no sense. Like you have cards like Bizarre Baghdad, never taps for mana.
Yeah.
It's technically like card disadvantage where you draw two.
Card disadvantage,
Yeah. Yeah, but library literally draws you cards and is still mana. Like wizards, what?
Yeah, but
They didn't know what they were
So
doing.
it was a library. There's like you can read and learn things. The Bazaar of Baghdad, you're just getting bad deals.
you're just getting.
Yeah,
You're just
you're just getting ripped off left and right.
Wow. I guess that scene in Aladdin makes sense. That's why he was stealing that apple because he didn't want to get ripped off.
He's fighting the
You
man.
would have paid 3 fingers for 2 apples.
Right, exactly. Who wants that? You steal it and get away.
Riff raff. Street rat. You know what? I'll buy that.
Anyway. So over the weekend, there was also the Comic Town Classic Series final. And I know that our two hosts here were competitors in said final.
We
Was
did.
I?
We did play in the tournament.
Correct. That
Some
my
number
statement
of
is
rounds.
accurate. But it was won by Bobby Colgrove, who
So
was...
we haven't played this game in a while.
No, we haven't given a Bobby a shout. He hasn't won anything in a while, to be
Yeah.
honest.
There you go, Bobby.
Just say local heartthrob, Bobby Colgrove.
Teen sensation.
Local Tiger Beat cover model.
Oh, it's the best.
So congratulations to Bobby. It's good to be able to give him a quick shout out. It's been a while. Welcome back, and keep doing what you're doing.
You didn't have to even wait till the end of the podcast this time. It's
Yeah,
just
it's true.
No,
right
it's just
there,
right here.
kind of near the.
I gotta admit too, like kudos to Comic Town. The trophy was pretty sweet.
Yeah, it was very nice to see. I got to see it on Friday before the tournament kind of fired, and
It was sort of so if you can see a picture of it if you go to Comic Town Gaming Center plug, but it's definitely a like one of those like cool plexiglass see through. It's sort of like pentagon shaped almost. Like it's sharp.
It would have looked nicer on my mantle, but
Yeah.
it wasn't meant to be.
I have like my Christmas lights up. You could have seen like the soft glow of the lights through.
Yeah,
I made myself sad.
yeah.
sorry, friend.
What was he? Do we know what he was playing?
I don't know what he was playing in standard, but I know in modern he was playing Esper Delver.
Esper Delver.
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
It was interesting.
What is that? Does it have does it have like monastery mentors or have like lingering souls?
I think he had Lingering Souls. I don't know about Monastery Mentor. Yeah, like Path.
I'll have to message him. I need to see this list.
Yeah,
So
it looks sweet.
Awesome.
yeah, spoiler alert: Dave and I did poorly.
Oh,
So we
rats.
both 1-2'd standard.
Boo.
I went home after I 1-2'd standard.
Yeah, so the way that the format, if you don't know, is a 6-round tournament. First 3 rounds are standard, and then the last 3 rounds are modern. So, I mean, essentially, if you come out of standard with a losing record, you kind of dead.
Yes. So and I decided to go ahead and leave at that point. So a couple of X2s did top 8, but my breakers would have been hot garbage. So
We had an interesting situation. So, obviously, being a split format tournament. So, in standard, I played Mardu Vehicles, just card for card, Matt Severa's GP winning list, because hadn't really tested a whole lot. And I was like, yeah, this is good. And I felt like it was well positioned just because of I figured it'd be good against the Marvel decks. And then if people started picking up Panharmonicon, you had a good game against that as well. And then coming out of standard being 1-2 was pretty much dead. But I was like, you know what? There might be some outside chance that an X2 or 2 makes it. And they definitely used the new Pro Tour top 8 format where your 1 and 2 seeds get essentially buys into the semifinals. So I was like, okay, maybe people might be more apt to play it out, instead of drawing in. So going in, I was going to play Grixis Delver in modern, and then being 1 and 2 in standard, I was like, I kind of need to just go for it. So I also had Death Shadow Zoo with me. So I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to play the more high variance deck and just hope I get hot, because Delver's good for a 2-1. It's a safe deck, but there are definitely some matchups that are very difficult to win. Whereas Death Shadow, maybe it doesn't have the best matchups across the board, but it can beat anything because it's just so fast and with the disruption. So I'm like, all right, I got to actually take a chance here. So I kind of audibled in the middle of the tournament to the Death Shadow deck, and then obviously got paired up against Burn and lost. So yeah, it wasn't a great day. But
I played Panharmonicon in Standard. Shocking. I won round 1 against Pure Mondon, actually. And he was handed a deck. He did not. I taught him how Avacyn worked. So like he's got a pretty busy work schedule currently. So he was like, "You got to help me with some of this." And then I played against Red Black Aggro in the second round and had really bad land issues both games where I just was struggling to hit land drops and had like really strong hands against them, but just couldn't get there. And then I played the actual mirror game round 3. Fun fact: that mirror is awful.
oh, you don't say.
Not shocking.
And we played a game that was a complete slugfest, and he landed the final Drowner to finish it. And then the next game, I never got past land drop 4. So while he essentially went off, so them's the breaks. And then at that point, like I had Jeskai aggro set up. I had actually tested a fair amount for Modern, but I wasn't gonna sit there and use that. So. We talked to them a little bit about what the structure might look like for the next year to sort of incentivize players to play both formats, especially since you qualified. Like some people, like I qualified in Modern. Not that it matters that much to me. I'd rather play Standard, but just like qualifying in certain formats and then sort of being like not able to get to those formats with relevance is a bit awkward.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about the split format tournaments here further down the road.
Our next section. So,
Yeah.
But I mean, I was really excited. Like it was really cool to have that payoff at the end of the year. And really, I know they sponsor us, so I know you listening wouldn't expect us to say anything differently. But like, they really did show the commitment to the players to go through this whole thing, to have this set up. They had all their forms and papers, and they gave everyone like AMP, which is a Pepsi energy drink, through a connection with Columbus, and like they really did try to like have it all set up for everybody, and like for a trial run of a series that they are running as a local store as opposed to being like some Star City or anything else. Like I would take their I think they did a better job with their event than even company like TCG that actually ran a full fledged like 5 or 10K for a while too. So you really need to, and I mean this strongly, like go out and support stores like specifically Comic Town that are going to do this for players, because not every store is doing that, and it's it was nice. It was a fun way to end the year.
Yeah, like I don't know if they have plans to do this kind of thing next year. I hope they do. I think it was a lot of fun, and like this tournament specifically was one I was really looking forward to playing in. Didn't quite work out for me, but regardless, it was still great that they had we had something like this at the end of the year to look forward to, and to try to qualify for. So
yeah, absolutely
awesome. I hope to see it return next year, and maybe I'll actually take a genuine run at trying to qualify for it, or maybe I won't. Who knows?
No, you better.
Yeah, you better.
Well, I'll try.
No, you're going to.
Oh, okay. We'll see what happens.
Even if it takes us as like doing team trios, the 3 of us, we'll get it done.
Okay.
It's gonna happen.
All right.
We'll lift you up so you can tap your mountains. Yeah, this works.
Yeah, I like tap mountains. I'm a fan. Been known to tap a few in years past. All right. So next up, we're going to move on to our questions segment. Well, a lot of some places have like the hot seat or what have you. We're shifting that dynamic and kind of giving it a new name. So we're each going to take turns posing questions to the group and kind of keep our answers to said questions within a certain time frame. But typically in Magic they don't have seats referenced in cards, but they do have thrones. So this is going to be the Dragon Throne parentheses of Tarkir. And parentheses. But the Dragon Throne.
Yeah, it's nice. It's got a nice ring to it.
So, Dave, I believe you're the first person to sit in the throne, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, how's this work?
So
you ask me a question?
Well, you're going to ask the question to the group. We'll discuss, and we're going to do 10 minutes for each question. So I'll keep the timer.
All right. Hope you can fill that up.
I mean, we don't have to go 10 minutes. 10 minutes is the max.
Okay.
So if you want to stop, we can stop.
Sure. All right, so first question for you guys. Split format tournaments. They're exciting, but pretty uncommon for the average player. All of us three have played in these types of tournaments before, but what unique challenges does it present, and how do we go about preparing for these?
Yeah, you started off with a good throwing voice, but then it, kind of sound like a Tom.
Subjects.
You sound like a King Tom, and let's just be honest.
Well, I'm not gonna spoiler alert anybody on this.
just go play with Sir Pounce while we answer the question.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree they are exciting. So I went to Atlanta last weekend and I drove with a local player who had not played in an invitational before and was really, really pumped. And we've talked on here about like setting goals for yourself, Magic wise. And one of his goals was to qualify for an invitational. And so he was excited to get to play both formats. He actually tried out the deck rental service to get his modern deck. Like he was all excited to go. And he day 2'd his first one. He went 1-3 in standard, then 4-0'd modern, which was cool. He was much stronger in modern than standard, so that makes sense. I was excited, and honestly, him being so excited while talking about it in the car sort of got me thinking about it a little bit when we were going down there, because I've definitely felt the same way, and was like, the first invitational I played in was definitely still standard and legacy, and it was like, all right, so as far as like playing in a split level tournament, like there is a level of excitement, especially when it's most of those kinds of tournaments are big deals, Pro Tours, invitationals, for our case like the championship final for Comic Town, right? These aren't just your average tournaments, so they carry some sort of weight to them, which feels nice. They get you sort of amped to play in them. So from like an exciting level, like I think that the concept of dual format, I think it also in my mind registers with like heightened play. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I definitely feel that way as well. So
I know, and I mean Morgan, I think you were really excited when you day 2'd over what I guess it was in the summer. It was actually in
the
April.
Columbus invitation.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. It's a nice feeling to get your first day 2 invitational. I mean, when that happened, I had even like day 2 an open technically, but to get that and especially like for mine, I went 2-2 in standard, and then with the 4-0 in modern, and that felt really good. So yeah, definitely having a split format, I really reinforces the need to step up your game, because you have to shift not only what deck you're playing, but how you approach the game, because shifting from standard to modern or standard even to legacy, you're still playing the game of Magic, but the paradigm is sort of shifted from the way that you're thinking. So you can't, it's not just going into a standard tournament and going, I'm going to face these decks, and then this is the only thing I have to think about. This is the only thing I have to prepare for. You have to think about modern, typically as being the second format, or even if you're talking about something like a Pro Tour, you have to think about limited, which is even more abstract and more strange from a constructed format. So stepping into that, it really takes to go and do that and perform well to day 2 with a particular type of tournament really takes a lot of investment. And I think that is what kind of separates it from, your typical open or something like that. For like a standard open, like you can test and try to maybe play a new deck and try to really put some time and effort into it. But in general, you're probably not going to test as hard, and even more so for something like Modern, where the decks, the format, so maybe you don't even test at all, but you just have a deck that you always play. But I don't think you can necessarily do that for these kind of tournaments. You really need to step up your game and be very aware of what's going to be there, especially since all the other players that you're going to be around probably are either as good as you or better than you. So I think that when you realize that you have to midway through shift the way you're thinking, what you're going to be seeing, what you're going to be playing against, you have to really show that in your testing, and maybe shift your testing and what you do on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think I don't know how much we would talk about like Pro Tours. I have a grand total of 1. Dave has the most by far here, but
by far.
Well, I mean
3.
I thought it was 4 actually. Huh.
No.
But anyways, so I think for a player who goes to like an invitational, though, you hit the nail on the head. The idea of like you have to step your game up, but you also have to like testing can be difficult, and I think that like invitationals, like going even back to this last weekend, like invitationals are always interesting to me because I think that I think there are tournaments you can actually metagame more than other, like big opens, because you know the type of player that's going to be there and you know how the format evolves. So like, I mean, I literally did that and I could say I was lucky because I successfully like played against the matches I wanted to play against, right? Because that doesn't always happen, but you can metagame for those tournaments, and I think for some players who've never done that before, like the concept of actively metagaming is difficult because that when you start looking at like the Star City circuit, you start seeing how teams, I mean look at teams and team decks that really did make an impact to the Invitational. They metagamed as a team and got rewarded.
Yeah.
So you can see how like tuning a deck for a field really can impact your results.
Yeah, you build your deck around the spiky nature of these tournaments.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're less likely to run into that pet deck than you would be in, say, an open or your local F&M, and you use that to your advantage. So it makes complete sense, and you can do it in both formats. Like Modern is so expensive that you can pick a deck that hates on the decks du jour of the week or the previous week, and really run away with the trophy.
Let me throw this at you. This is kind of an addendum.
Oh no!
Would you rather play?
Do we have enough time for an addendum?
We have 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
All right, we have time. So, would you rather play in a split format tournament that is half limited, half constructed, or would you rather play in one that has two different constructed formats?
Two different constructed formats, because limited is by far my weakest game as far as that goes. But
okay,
I'm going to say that it doesn't matter. I think both just put you into completely different mindsets from the other. That they are both, in my mind, palate cleansers. I would say I like limited as a format just because I think like, okay, let me step back for a second. I think it depends on how you qualified for that tournament. Like the Pro Tour, a lot of people did qualify playing limited through GPs and stuff. So like I think it has to reflect, you know what I mean, what you got there. So like if I played a lot of limited to qualify for the Pro Tour, right, like either through an RPTQ or a PBTQ, and then like only had to play two constructed formats, I would be very confused. So, but I will suggest that it doesn't really matter to me. But the shift in general is such a palette change for me that it's the same idea.
Yeah, I guess Pro Tours are set up differently than most other tournaments because of constructed is weighted more. So, like in each day, you have you have 5 rounds of constructed. Or I guess it's standard now. It's just 5 rounds of standard and 3 rounds of draft. So I think you'd be better off focusing more on standard. But I think the biggest edge you get, and if you really want to do well, is to practice limited as well, and to try to have a really good limited record. So I mean that's the way that you top 8. You know what I mean? Like, you could still do decently well, having a 3-3 limited record, but if you want to actually win,
and you see that in a lot of big teams testing where they grind drafts on Moto and then get together and actually like rank cards of a set. Like they all do that, and that's because it's shown to work and really increasing your limited game. And like that's points. That's points you gain against the competition that doesn't have access to that.
I think for this for the Comic Town final specifically for me, I hadn't played much standard. And really, my deck choice was based off of what I thought the metagame was going to be. And doing this podcast, it helps me kind of stay up to date with what's going on in standard. I pay attention. I know what the best decks are. I know what's in them. But that's different than actually playing the games. And I know, like for myself, like I definitely did not prepare enough playing enough games of standard to really know, I guess, the interactions and how to sideboard and stuff like that. Like you need to actually play the games to know that, not just theory craft. So
I will say, as we close out this topic, the one thing I do like about split format tournaments and like the idea of like the challenges of preparing for them is that they do tend to reward, like you mentioned, like you can't just you can do average unlimited at a Pro Tour, but you can't just ignore it. You just can't. And I think it rewards whole players, right? Like specialists are good. You know what I mean? You have your draft specialists, your modern like specialists, people who do well. But the players who can be consistently good players get rewarded. And I think forcing a player to to play 2 formats, to prepare 2 decks, to prepare for 2 sets of testing, to switch mindsets is a fun way and a good way to sort of test the skill of that player. You know what I mean?
To be well-rounded.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think like looking back to the first few times I had to play Legacy, there's a even the concept of how you pace yourself. Oh, then we're done with that. How you pace yourself though in a tournament where you're playing Legacy versus a tournament where you're playing Standard is a big deal, and it's a skill you have to learn. So being able to show off a multi-skill set, I think, is important.
Yeah, I think it's good to end on. Mainly because we have to.
Yeah, it's fair.
All right. Mike, I believe that your question is
Dave
next.
got out of the way. It's my turn to sit. The dragon.
All right. Give me a second. All right. It's all yours.
Oh, it feels good.
I'm sure your downstairs neighbor really enjoyed that.
Oh my gosh.
Well, he's got a giant throne in his living room. I don't know what you want.
I didn't realize a dragon bone was this soft on the buttocks.
I know, or you really wouldn't think that by
Oh
looking
my
at
gosh.
it.
10 minutes, that's all I get?
Sorry.
Yeah. All right, well.
It's more like dragon. It's like cartilage. It kind of like conforms over time.
That makes sense. All right, well, here is my question. Mere peons. What do you think of the current Standard environment now that it's almost over? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Standard? And this comes courtesy of Sam Stoddard. Hashtag Wizard Staff.
Hashtag wizard
like
staff.
That's
Wait,
actually,
is that like a weapon or I think it's Watsy staff.
Good Watsy staff. There you go. Begin.
Anyway, I would rate current Standard as a 4. I think I'm pretty low on Standard in all honesty. It does feel like it has gone a little bit stale, a little bit lackluster. We kind of have had the same decks show up and be powerful and good for a while. It feels like Black Green Delirium has just always been around and always has been somewhat decent since we got Eldritch Moon. It feels like, and it just hasn't really gone anywhere. It feels like the second best deck is rotating, is different. It was Blue White Flash, and now it might be Red Green Marvel. But it feels like it's just like the next 30 something percentage is either going to be one of those two decks, and then you have like the third good deck, which is like the aggressive deck. So it's your vehicles variant or what have you, and then kind of everything else. And that everything else isn't necessarily very deep. And it's just kind of boring, and it needs a shakeup. It doesn't feel like there's a hyper aggressive aggro deck, which I severely want, and I can definitely feel its vacuum. And it does feel like a lot of the decks are just like Mythic Rare Dot deck. You have $400 standard decks, and that it feels really oppressive.
Not if you're playing Panorama.
No, correct.
Now price wise, I don't know. It's definitely not as bad as it has been. I think price wise, Standard is actually not terrible right now.
I think
sure, but you don't. What I'm saying is like you don't have access to a top tier deck that is sub $200.
So here's my thought comparison. We've talked about cons a bunch, in the past, being people think I was expensive. You had very expensive Jaces and you had very expensive fetches, right? However, if you own Jaces and fetches, you could play most of the decks in Standard, right? Right now, though, if you have a place at Emrakul, you can kind of play one deck. Ishkana and Emrakul
two
helps
decks.
because you can play two,
Yeah.
right? But if you place at a Gideon, then it's like two decks, right? But like they don't really you don't have the most expensive cards being over. You just have you want to play this deck, buy this playset of Mythics. You want to play this deck, buy this playset of Mythics. So that's what I think he means. I still don't think this format's actively that awful and expensive because you can play substitutes for certain cards, and there's a lot of cards in those decks that could be super expensive but aren't. Or have continued to come down, but
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
I mean, it's not like super cheap, but it's definitely not, like you said, compared to like Cons Standard, it's not that bad. Because
But
you
again, I
don't
would
need
still argue your Ishkana is not going to be worth anything when it rotates, but
Right.
all your fetch
Right.
lands still were. So
exactly. For me, I'd probably give this format a 3. I think it's no mystery. We've talked about it. The last month or so on here. I don't think any of us are really that crazy about Standard right now. Definitely, it's a little bit better than I gave it credit for maybe 3 weeks ago or so when we just saw the Open be like all Black, Green, and Blue White Flash. So we've definitely had some new decks open up, but I think it still just has its problems. The reason why I gave it a 3 is it's not the worst ever, but if 5 is average, it's definitely below average. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I would say that. There is somewhat of a diversity of decks, but like you were saying with like the cards, there are certain pillars of the format. You know, you have your Ishkana, your Emrakul, your Liliana, your Gideon, and like basically if you're not playing any of these cards, it's like, what are you even doing? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't.
I would throw Smuggler's Copter into that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fair.
So it's like
Though at least that card is playable in multiple decks.
That's true.
I think the best standard formats are ones that had kind of, I guess, a flatter power level. So you didn't have like these 5 best cards. You know, you had good cards and then like maybe not so good cards, but the difference in power level wasn't so drastic.
There's also been a lot of argument made that the best standards have also been the one with the best mana or better mana.
I always tend to agree with that. But
Yeah, I mean, people like casting their spells.
Yeah, so I think
Generally.
that
I think mana bases that are adventurous also reward good deck building.
Yeah. I mean, the mana is not like the worst ever right now. It's not like
I think it's pretty bad.
I think it's pretty bad.
It's really it's not the worst ever. No, there have been worse mana bases because Wizards has just gotten better at making lands. But the lands that we have are not even comparatively, but just in general, like kind of subpar. They're just kind of meh. A lot of them are tap lands. And sometimes it feels really bad because sometimes it's controllable, sometimes it just isn't. You know, it's just very awkward.
shadows-
And main lands are cool, but they're like the coolest lands.
the shadows
And fast lands, excuse me, fast
continue
lands.
to unimpress, but are also really important, and they're so high
Yeah.
variance. You know what I mean? Like, they're so bad to draw. They're so bad.
Right.
Like we have some good lands, but like the ones that are middling are awful, and we also have all of these colorless lands hanging out because of Eldrazi still, which are taking up land space in the block, like in the overall standard, but like aren't doing anything now. So
Yeah.
I agree with that.
But I think you really feel it when you compare like ally color decks to enemy color decks. Enemy color decks are the cool mana bases, right? You get fast lands, you get man lands, like that's great. But you look at ally color, like it's not even. It's not.
Oh, it's certainly not.
And I think that they messed up by not actually print, like they have even color like pairing, but the lands aren't even. So you make
certain lands are going to be better.
Yeah, you've now created this where actual color pairs are disproportionately worse than other ones.
I would argue, though, that, at least against your argument, like Blue White Flash has been one of the most powerful decks despite its mana base, and if it had an even mana base, might be oppressive.
That could be very true, but I mean, like that's an argument of
it's
whether like that's
yeah.
another that's more of a design argument then.
Right. We haven't even touched on the fact that I know, Mike, last week you were talking about how Emrakul just makes it just.
Yeah, I haven't got
it
to
just
read
feels,
the format yet, so
Yeah,
I'm riding the throne.
Let's
currently.
go. What grade? What
So
number
you mentioned,
grade?
You mentioned the average thing, and I was actually a little bit higher, but I think I'll go down. I'm going to be a 5, just because I do feel that some of the format has just been. I just get annoyed with players sometimes, like, and I don't mean that like look at all the net deckers. I don't mean that. What I mean though is like the concept that like people just like they're getting to the groove. You know what I mean? I feel like on the open circuit, you see teams really testing. You saw a card hoarder get rewarded for really pushing what Aetherworks could do and what that deck could look like. And like you saw, like even the Panharmonicon deck, like really, I was playing a deck that I thought was well positioned against the format and happened to sort of luck into an archetype that is good against the format. But it's not like I say luck into. That's not true. I did the testing to try and exploit, and I don't see that enough anymore. I think there are ways to exploit this format. Now, most of my negativity of this format though comes from the same things you guys have already said. The mythics being like, again, like Liliana, you have to have 4 of them to play the black green. They're $50 a piece. They don't go anywhere else currently. They might. Maybe you could play a different deck.
Sometimes they show up like a little
Zombies,
bit, a
but,
little
like-
bit of modern
But
too.
so much of the format revolves around Emrakul. You have matches going to ridiculous time lengths. You have and the decision making is fruitful. I think that's why I don't hate the standard as much. Like the decision making is still top notch. But man, Emrakul's really soured me on the format, and I don't know how much longer this format, even with a new set, can go on if Emrakul is the thing that everybody is doing.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. It makes me very sad.
And to go along with that, I think the Marvel decks being as good as they are is not necessarily a good thing.
Oh, I agree with you on that.
Wait, you're trying to tell me that casting something for free is bad?
Well, because it creates a feel bad on one side or another. Like if if your opponent goes turn 4, Marvel, activate, put Emrakul in play.
Yeah, it
You
just
didn't
like
really get
it
to
felt
do
really
anything?
bad when your opponent went turn 4 collected company, put this reflector mage and this Jason to play. That's not even like
But
the most suppressive one.
But that's not even like the game wasn't over at that point. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well, I've definitely 2 reflector mages. Is that better? Is that closer?
I'm saying like there are a number of games of Magic right now that in standard that do revolve around turn 4. Your opponent Emrakul or Ulam logged you, and yeah, you were done. You were done playing Magic, and you could say, "Well, build your deck." You can have a lot of answers to Emrakul and still just die to turn 4, or wait for it, turn 3 Emrakul. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So these, man.
Well, I was getting to like the flip side is like, okay, so if you're the one playing Marvel and you're like turn 4, okay, do it, and then you whiff, and then your deck's not really doing much else after that. Then it's
You're like turn 4,
oh, cool.
Servant of the Conduit for free. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true too. And I guess that's the argument to the deck, right? It's like, oh well, it doesn't always do that. It's like, but that like, so I just talk about how like you get rewarded for like good decision trees. Like black green is a deck that you are rewarded for good decision trees, and you have a lot of decisions to make. Like there's a reason that people are drawn to that deck, right? Now it's not just that it's good, but it's good because you have to make a lot of decisions. The same reason with the Jeskai decks where you're playing all the glimmers. You know, people like those decks, but Aetherworks it is quite literally spinning the wheel, and the wheel has a lot of negative again you feel bad you feel bad if you're the guy who got Emrakul on turn 4, and you feel bad if you're the guy who
I want to make a Wheel of Fortune joke. It's you spin the wheel, but it has a lot more bankruptcies on it.
Aw.
But also a couple more $1 million, but just $2 more $1 million.
That was my bankruptcy noise.
Wow. All right. Well, that's my turn on the throne.
All right, I guess it is my turn.
Hey,
bow
get
before
off
me,
the-
mortals.
Yeah, get off the throne, Mike.
I don't want to though. There's literally a butt mark in the cartilage now from
Yeah.
me.
Doesn't make any sense.
Hey.
Oh, it's gone.
It's like a cushion. It bounces back when you get off of it,
Anyway,
even though it's made out of bone.
in my time on the throne, I'd like to pose a question that Aaron Forsyth posed himself. And he asks, or at least puts together this situation. It says, imagine that we being Magic R&D, make a set with a red-green beast tribal theme. The best beast deck in Standard ends up being black-green. Is this cool emerging gameplay or an error? And I saw this question on Twitter, and I thought, like, it is a bit more game designy than we would typically get into, and none of us here are actual, experts in this in any way, shape, or form. But I think that it is something that is a good discussion point. And I wanted to, before I get into it, kind of read about emergent gameplay. So emergent gameplay refers to the complex situations in video games, board games, etc., that emerge from interactions of relatively simple game mechanics is the actual definition. So basically, with something like Standard, it's really easy to kind of come to these conclusions due to the amount of information that we get from tournaments and stuff like that. So if there was a set where RD had set out to make this great red-green deck, be beast or set it up in the actual setter block for it to be red green, but it ends up being green black. I don't necessarily think that would be an error. I think that sometimes that just is kind of what happens, and not everyone can always see everything that kind of unfolds. But when you have, it's kind of like, if you have enough monkeys in a room banging on typewriters, eventually you'd get Shakespeare. This is kind of the same thing. If you have enough Magic players, building decks and trying to beat each other, eventually you're going to find, the deck du jour. And if it shook out that it was not red green, but actually, green black, I just think that would be, this kind of emerging gameplay that we see. We see it come to fruition that this is just the best combination of cards, regardless of the inherent tribal strategies that they tried to build into the set. So I don't necessarily think that would be an error, because we're not saying that it was something that was oppressive, something that was broken or anything like that. We're just saying, like, this is just the deck and how it came to be.
So I would tend to agree with that. I think there is a difference, though. And interestingly enough, I think I can... Now, Dave, you have to check me on this because it's been a little while, but I can actually support my argument with a beast.
Okay.
So I think that's true unless you've accidentally made a card that's so much better than the other cards that it's not emergent gameplay. Now you've done what we just argued standard was. So we had a red green beast deck once upon a time. Well, they tried to in Onslaught. Red green was a beast color. Hey, do you remember how many red green beast decks were there in standard with contested cliffs and? Oh, okay.
Like none.
How many decks ran Ravenous Baloth in that format?
A lot.
There you go. Ravenous Baloth was the premier beast, 4/4 for 4 that you could sack to gain 4 life. Interesting enough, was played in a couple black-green decks. It also played Oversold Cemetery, so you could always get back your Ravenous Baloths. So quite literally, they tried to make beasts there was a rare land that was like an arena for beasts. There were a number of cool beasts with the morph mechanic. They tried to push that as a deck, but Ravenous Baloth ended up being pretty much the only playable beast, and therefore that card was one of the the premier cards of the format. So I think that's where you get into an issue. They want an archetype to exist, but then a card is so much better than the archetype that the card defines the deck, not the archetype. And that I think moves away from emergent gameplay and is from design that is trying to sell sell packs, but not necessarily be good gameplay.
I guess that does make sense. That's a great point. I guess
happy I remember that. I was like, wait a second, I could do this with beasts.
I guess I would infer, by the question that like the black green, the theoretical black green deck that Foresight's talking about would contain more than one beast per se. You know what I mean? To be classified as a beast deck.
I understand what he's suggesting.
But I just wanted to make sure, like you wouldn't call Band Company a werewolf deck because it had.
No, I would suggest that they failed to make the werewolf deck playable.
I agree.
Deck had to look for it. So I would argue in what he's talking about, they did something wrong in red that made green beast players have to look for another color. So that's why I'm saying it's not immediately emergent. I think it could be design issues.
Sure.
I think like something similar, if you want like another example, would be in Lorwyn block. So they had kind of the two color, I guess, tribal, tribes, I guess. I don't know.
Tribal tribes. Yes,
yeah, tribal tribes. And I think Merfolk was one that like Merfolk's kind of a fan favorite, and Merfolk in that block was blue-white. So they had a lot of Merfolk cards in white. That was kind of weird because they hadn't really had that before. But there weren't really any good ones. There was Sig River Guide was like the best. That was like the reason to splash white. But you ended up seeing like a lot of like monocolor Merfolk decks. So it didn't really work out the way that I guess they might have thought that it was going to work out. But I think it was still interesting that it was there. To answer the question, I think like I think it can be a good thing if it's not exactly as they intended. I think when they come out with new mechanics and stuff, and obviously they want to try to push the mechanics, but sometimes like when you feel like the deck building is like kind of on skates, like it's just like, oh, here's the deck, just play all the cards with this mechanic on it. That could be kind of boring. So I kind of like that there is room to explore there to say, hey, maybe there's a different way to do this. But I think if that's how it always was, that would, to me, signal they probably aren't making the synergies as good as they should be. I don't know.
I mean, more importantly, it would mean that R&D is not good at predicting somewhat what the format would be like, which is very dangerous. If R&D is like, yeah, we're going to make these cards and then build these decks, but they're not accurate, like they're not representative, at least of somewhat of what standard ends up being, that means that they can't develop cards correctly. It means we would get broken cards.
Yeah. So I think it's good in moderation. I don't think you want it. I don't think you want it all the time one way or another. I don't think you want like all the time deck building on skates or all the time, the cards that they're putting out don't really work the best together.
So I think you could make an argument for even in our current standard for how this is both a good and bad thing. Like a good thing would be like, so zombies ostensibly was designed to be blue-black, right? However, the ones that were good we know are good, and we know that R&D designs some bad cards. So not all the cards in the deck are meant to always see play. But you have seen that like certain elements of that deck are strong enough to go in multiple colors. So you have red-black zombies with blue cards in it that you're never going to cast because the mechanic was strong enough. I think that's emergent gameplay. You still have zombies, but the zombies deck then could use the best cards to then pick which side it wanted to go on, right? But the flip side of this is you want vehicles to be a thing. So to make sure the vehicles is a thing, you design a ridiculously broken vehicle, and now every deck in the format plays the vehicle, not just the deck you want anymore, because you made a card so pushed to try and make vehicles a deck, to give your skates, to use your analogy, that you have now made a format where everyone feels like they have to play this card. So I think like even our current standard, you can see like where this is a success. It's like, hey, these cards are good. Now play around, see what cards go best around it, as opposed to this card's unbelievable. Just put something around it to crew it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. I think in the scope of the way that the situation's put forth, it's interesting to think about what R&D, like what they expected to, what standard would look like at this point in time with Kaladesh out. Like, did they expect to see a blue-white deck? Did they expect to see that? And that's why I like to see like the Future League stuff that they put out and see what the decks they're actually playing in Future League, because it kind of gives them an idea of like how spot on they were. So I do wonder if that's what they expected to, did they have an Aetherworks deck? Did they have a Teamer Aetherworks deck? Like, it's just interesting to see, like, where they expect the format to be to where it ends up. And I think a lot of that is good. I think it's a lot of it's good that they don't kind of see where everything is going to end up completely, but they want to be at least a little bit accurate so they can gauge actual genuine power level of cards. And I think that it's good when players see interactions that maybe R&D itself didn't catch sometimes. But there are always outliers that cause it to be a negative thing. That cause R&D, R&D's clearly made mistakes in the past, and they've been pretty good at not doing it for a little bit. Nothing's been like emergency bannable. There have been some impressive cards, and there currently are some impressive cards in Standard for sure. But it's always kind of interesting to see like what they think and what actually is. And for the most part, I think they get it pretty okay. And I think most of the time it's just emergent gameplay.
I think for the most part, like, you have to accept that errors will happen sometimes. I think even in good design, that errors are going to happen because you want people to experiment.
Nobody's Nerfic.
Woo! Oh, man. Dust that one off, Morgan. I know I'd hate you to inhale all the dust.
Man. I'm just throwing out some hot Griffin McElroyisms.
But I will say... one thing to consider, and this is a broader topic, but I do wish maybe that Wizards would change the way it does spoilers, because if you pay attention to how they do spoilers, they do tend to highlight. Sometimes there's misses. Collect the Company was one we could think of recently that wasn't highlighted, but a lot of the cards that are highlighted early in spoilers are the ones that they have already decided they think will see play or will excite players to play, including like Aetherworks Marvel. And I do think that if they went about spoilers a little bit differently, like, so it's awkward because you want to sell packs, right? But at the same time, like, you also, like, you show players, like, oh, you can do all this and this and this. We thought of this already. And then they take it and push further, as opposed to sometimes just letting them, you see the second half of the card pool by itself, and then you get to play with it. And I do feel like there's some cards there that they're so pushed, and they're pushed, and they're throwing them in your face and telling you how to push that. It's just like,
yeah,
we get it.
Spoiler season definitely kind of cuts to the chase, due to the fact that they do want to sell packs. So I can definitely understand that frustration and not being able to really assess the set as a whole.
Yeah.
So
let me go on to I had a good point, but I can't talk about it.
He's just joshing. He's just joshing. That's a little a radio drama right there.
Whoa!
Time to put the throne away.
Yeah.
Where are we gonna put this thing?
You know what's funny? It's compactable. Watch. See this little button? There it is. It's gone.
Ah,
It's like Capsule Corp technology, man.
Yeah.
nice.
Sweet.
We'll have to dust that one off maybe another year or so.
Yeah, when we're running a little low on subjects and things.
On emergent gameplay topics.
Yeah, man. I thought those all were pretty good discussions.
Yeah, I liked it.
I hope
we've done this before, but that 10-minute time frame, like, it made you got to stop. You can't run in circles around what you're talking about. You got to stop.
No, you got to make your point.
You can't keep talking about the thing you keep talking about before you. You have to make yourself
No,
stop.
you
That
can't.
way you don't keep repeating yourself.
Just like
over and over again. You have
circular
to come to
arguments
a
or anything
point
like that.
That like comes to like a good stopping point, so you don't keep talking about the same things over and over again.
Yeah,
Okay, we got it.
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
All right. So let's move on into the wrap up and talk about what's happening over the weekend. And it really is only one thing that's happening, which is the 2016 Star City Games.
No, look at the show notes. It's 2106.
2106, yeah.
The we're going into the future, and we're going to play in the 2106 Players Championship. I can't wait to see what Magic looks like.
Typo, fool.
Man, it might be worth something someday.
So it's going to be 16 players in 3 formats. Also, this is going to be the last one. They're not going to continue this program. So, whoever is the 2016 Player Champion is theoretically going to also be the 2106 Players Championship champion, the forever champion. Correct. So if who won it last year?
Jim Davis.
Jim Davis. So Jim Davis wins. He is the one and only Players Champion for Star City Games, which is I imagine that.
Real, actually.
Well, Brad Nelson won the first one.
Oh, Brad Nelson won the first one. Okay, so the last. He'll just be the last. I forgot there was 3. I thought there were only 2.
We haven't had a repeat, so.
Well, Godspeed, Jim Davis. I wish you the best of luck to be the only as some have been the last Starfighter. You can be the last Players Champion. Again, it's 3 formats, so it's standard, modern, limited, I assume, or is there legacy?
Legacy.
Okay, standard, modern, legacy.
Yep.
Which makes sense because those are the 3 formats for the Star City Games Open Series.
Yep.
I'm going to build the perfect Players Champion. So I want Jacob Bau's beard.
Oh, of course.
I want Joe
and his
Lassette's-
affinity for Dragon Ball.
that's fair. I want Joe Lassette's hair. I want Brad's glasses. I want Kevin Jones's hat.
Tom Ross's mustache.
Oh yeah, Tom Ross's mustache for sure. I want Jerry's nonchalance.
That's correct.
I want Jeff's affableness.
Can we just have Jeff's mathematical brain though?
Oh yeah, let's just go with that. I want the cold eyes of Liam Lonigan because man, look at that guy. Look at him. He's the only one who's not smiling. He's just I'm winning this.
Can we have a Caleb Shears smile?
No one. No, Caleb, I'm very sorry. You're a very nice guy. I've talked to you before. When you smile like that, man, you look stressed out.
I can see all of your teeth, all of them, even the back ones.
I know. You did very well, and I'm very happy for you. But
Congratulations, yes.
man, but yeah, I think that's what I want, and maybe the aw shuck smile of a Todd Anderson. We'll go with that.
Yeah,
that's my Players Champion.
fair enough. So if you can't,
Sounds horrifying.
if you can't steal the body parts from all of these players, who do you pick to win it? Who's going to take that trophy?
I'm gonna pick Jacob Bau. He's had a really you pick the player who's going the hottest into the season, and man, he is riding a heater all the way to the end here. And he's got a good testing team and good the good deck and standard. So I would not be surprised to see him make a deep run.
What about you, Dave?
I'm going with Brad Nelson. I know he's won it before.
So an alpha and omega end to the tournament series. I see.
Yeah, I mean
The beginning and the end.
Yeah, I mean he's played in all 3 of these, so I mean he's familiar with like we talked about preparing for the split format. Now this is 3 formats, which I don't even know how I would do this, but he's won it before. I think he's the best all-around player, and we talked about that's another thing that you need to be is just an overall great player. I mean he's had a lot of success on the Pro Tour as well as on the Open Series, so I'm just going to go with the best player, Brad Nelson.
I'm going to go with Tom Ross because whatever.
That's a fine choice as well.
Whatever. I mean, I think they're all fine choices to be quite honest.
Right.
This tournament has shown that anybody can win this kind of tournament. So
yeah.
even some of the players who like a Mac Xvetti or Liam Lonigan who just won an invitational, just winning an invitational, difficult. So
I don't think many people expected Jim Davis to take it down last year. So I mean, don't be surprised if you see somebody that maybe you didn't expect do well. So maybe it's maybe it's Kevin Jones.
Yeah,
he's been doing pretty well lately. Jeff Hoagland hasn't made a lot of noise recently, but maybe.
I mean, he's literally in the top 32 to 16 of every event though. So hasn't made a lot of noise, but I mean, he lost his winning in for top 8 in Atlanta too. So I think
it'd be poetic for him to win this. He's never won an Open, but to win the last Players Championship, that'd be kind of sweet. So,
well, best of luck to all those competing in this illustrious and final tournament of the Player Championship series.
Championship.
Well, maybe hopefully they'll all leave on a friendship afterwards.
Do you remember the Rugrats episode where they heard about the championship and they thought it was a giant chip, like a chocolate chip, and they were trying to get it? That's my life. I'm chasing that championship.
Should we tell him, Morgan, or let him keep chasing that?
They have giant Hershey Kisses.
Yeah,
that's the same thing.
Don't do this to me.
No, we're not talking that.
How big?
Don't worry about it.
How big do you need this to be? like human sized?
Can I make a throne out of it?
Can you actually sail away in it?
No. It's not like a ship. It's a chip. Like
The chip. Jeez, Dave.
Oh, I thought we were talking like
No,
like
not
a ship.
No, not a champion's ship.
Yeah.
Oh, like a championship. Like the
That-
Rugrats are babies, man.
See,
They
that's
just
what
earn
I
it.
had envisioned. That's the thing I'm chasing.
He's chasing that championship.
Yeah.
My yacht, boys. Bring it around.
Yeah. Just want a golden ship.
So wait, what were you talking about?
A champion's ship.
No.
What about a champion's hip? Is that
Hey,
is that something you'll need?
This is a grave robbing. I did it. I finally have a champion's hip.
anyway? Some of those things are attainable. Some of those are not.
One of those things is attainable.
Fairly certain out of the things we listed, the champion's hip is the most attainable.
That's true.
It's terrifying.
You could bake like a big giant cookie.
Yeah, I
Like
guess.
theoretically, like how big would the cookie need to be? If they're babies, they don't know. They don't have any
I'm
idea.
not a baby.
I mean,
I need a big chip.
I mean, we could look up the world's biggest chocolate chip cookie and then see if that's.
All right. Let's.
Well, while we're researching that, because
Thank you for calling it research.
it's definitely research. I'm pretty sure a college student probably got paid for looking this up at some point in time.
We're gonna look this up.
We got college credit at the very least.
Morgan,
Anyway,
where can people find us and stuff?
so you can find us at various different places. We have a Twitter. We are at Your End Step, so you can do a search for us. And then if you add us, we're at Your End Step. It's a cool little thing that we have going. It's great. We're also on Facebook. You do a quick search for us on Facebook. It's just at Your End Step will come up. While you're on Facebook, you can look up Comic Town Gaming Center there as well and get an update on their events. They're going to be a little bit quiet for the most part until the new year, like most of other local stores. It's really hard to schedule events around holidays, so you kind of have to take it as it is and attend your F&Ms and what have you. You can also download us at various locations. You can get us through iTunes, or you can get us on the Google Music app. I forget. I gotta look up what that actually is called.
Play.
Google Play. That's what it is. The Google Play app. We are on there in their podcast section as well.
Don't forget that this is the last weekend for the Standard Showdown.
That is correct. That is something to do. If you are looking for some, standard to play, you can go to the Standard Showdown, and you try to win those
1 o'clock at Countdown.
1 o'clock, and you can try to win those special sweet booster packs. So, and get your chance at a masterpiece. You can also download us via MTG Cast, and that's a lovely place where you can see a whole bunch of other podcasts about Magic and find your new favorite one. So, boys, what did our research yield?
The largest cookie measured 8,120 feet and was it's squared, right? It was made by the Immaculate Baking Company in Flat Rock, North Carolina. The chocolate chip cookie weighed 18 tons, so 40,000 pounds, and had a diameter of 101 feet.
That's a pretty big cookie. Is that your championship?
That's my championship.
There you
So
go.
if you guys could just make that for me.
I mean, I think that's probably
I'm
like
looking at an image of it, like right now being made. What looks like actually on a baseball field. They have a lot of stuff, like dear. They have like rakes and stuff. I don't think I want to eat this cookie.
I mean, I'm sure the rakes are clean.
Clean rakes.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
For how
They're
long?
probably new. They're probably new. They're only going to have cookie on them. It's not like
The
they're
question is,
rake.
how do you cook it?
Uh,
The sun powers activate.
that's what Pyro was doing. He's just baking that
You
cookie.
need me to bake a cookie, eh?
I can cook it up real fast.
That's not really evil, but I think I'll do it.
Is it an evil cookie?
Oh, here's the best. This is the best. All right, I did it, but I burned it a little bit on the bottom.
And he just steals a little bit of it and runs away. Oh man, that's great. I'm glad we can have those fun callbacks. Hope people are still listening. Hope they were on the edge of their sheet while we were edge of their seat. Or if you're on a bed, you could be at the edge of your sheet. While we
or on the edge of a toilet.
while we were looking up that sweet cookie information. So glad we could give you the hard hitting facts here on At Your End Step. Now you guys know what the biggest cookie in the world ever made was, and that Pyro cooked it. Both those are facts.
Not that he did cook it, but he could cook it.
Oh no, he
If
did.
Pyro was a
No,
real
we're
person.
just gonna say that. That's a bold statement.
Okay, that's
Bold claim.
Breaking news.
Look that up on Snopes. See if it's true.
I think PolitiFact had an article about it.
Oh man! All right. Well, we've had fun, and we'll be back next week. And I think that the week after that is our off week because that's what in between.
Yeah, that's right after Christmas.
Yeah, that's right after Christmas, before New Year's. So that'll be sort of our the last thing that we do. So, but we do thank you and appreciate you for coming back to At Your End Step and spend some time with us. But we'll catch you guys next week, and you have a great one. Bye.